The Collector, a film that takes one man's darkest fantasy of lust and loneliness and turns it into every woman's worst nightmare.
The Collector follows a lonely, rich man who has a plan to abduct a woman in hopes that she'll fall in love with him.
While critics rave over the movie's riveting performances, one fan is fixated for all the wrong reasons.
This tape, what you're hearing now, is going to be the lead-in of the various phases of construction of building a secret room. The purpose of that cell will be the imprisonment of the young lady.
He wanted to kidnap a female, enslave her, and have certain demands and conditions that she was to follow.
What I want is an off-the-shelf sex partner.
The police had no idea what they were in for when they went to the cabin. This was a house of horrors.
One man's desire to commit a copycat murder will haunt a detective who worked the case for years to come.
I thought there was a possibility that we might find a body, maybe a couple bodies. We just couldn't hardly imagine what we were seeing.
The challenge of this project, the excitement, the thrill if it succeeds, it's something that I fantasize daily about.
Why are you doing this?
Because we hate you.
He set out to find a woman, like in The Collector, but instead of one woman, he collected an entire graveyard of bodies.
In 1965, The Collector debuts in theaters across the U.S.
The Collector stars legendary actor Terrence Stamp as Freddy. It's one of his first big films, and the way that the film opens up is with a scene where Freddy catches a butterfly and then just observes it from the glass.
Freddy is obsessed with capturing beauty, one way or another.
Freddy is lonely and alone, and he's decided that the only way that he's ever going to have a partner is to abduct a beautiful woman.
He stalks an art student named Miranda, and when the time is right, he abducts her and keeps her captive in his hidden bunker.
Freddy doesn't have the best social skills, so the only relationship that he can really equate a woman to would be how he observes butterflies.
Freddy's obsession with Miranda in the movie The Collector captures the full attention of 40-year-old California native Leonard Lake.
The movie gave him inspiration. The Collector brought out the sadistic part of Leonard.
If I can construct a holding cell, a facility that is so stark, so empty, so cold, so quiet, so totally removed from the world, that I can quickly condition a young woman to cooperate with me fully.
Detective Ron McFall will always remember this gruesome copycat crime.
I believe that it's total, absolute psychological control and physical domination. I think that's what Leonard Lake really desired.
Some argue that killers aren't born, they are made. California resident Leonard Lake seems to be the shining example of this philosophy.
Leonard wasn't born evil. He grew up, a happy-go-lucky kid, eager to please. He just, seemed like a nice boy.
He was just like other children, no different. Enjoyed school, had friends, a child that seemed to be developing normally.
Don't tell me what to do.
But Leonard's carefree childhood isn't without its blemishes.
What about Lenny?
His parents get a divorce, and his mother walks out on the family,
He can stay with you, he'll be fine.
leaving him in the care of his grandmother.
His mother completely rejected him. And what that can do to a child psychologically truly can be damaging for life. You just never, ever feel that sense of security ever again.
Lenny. Leonard.
Leonard was pretty much living a normal childhood until his sister arrived to live with the grandmother as well.
Sandy, come in here.
And his grandmother started encouraging Leonard to take naked pictures of his sister, and she encouraged his sister to go along with it.
It is unknown why Leonard's grandmother makes her grandchildren participate in this perverted act.
Remember to look through the lens. Look up here. Get this up here so you can look.
I don't want to.
I didn't ask if you wanted, did I? I said do it.
Why a grandmother would encourage her two grandchildren to photograph each other naked is incredibly disturbing. For Leonard, the child knows it's wrong, yet their caregiver is telling them to do something that is wrong.
I think Leonard could have gone another way if he had had a different life. I really do. I mean, I think the stuff his grandmother did to him, planted some seeds.
By the time Leonard is a teenager, his grandmother's lessons have morphed into a voyeuristic fetish.
Women could tell just by talking to him that there was something not quite right about him.
Hi, Leonard.
Hi, Sally.
Why don't you ever put that camera down? Hey,
Pose for the camera.
stop it.
And why don't you take that dress off for me, baby?
Creep.
Women were always telling Leonard no. No to letting him take their picture, no to dating him. I mean, that's all Leonard heard from women was no.
After high school, Leonard drifts aimlessly through life.
That's it.
He sells drugs. He finds these dirty, filthy magazines and takes ads out, trying to procure women who will pose naked for him.
That's a good girl.
They're willing to take the pictures, but once the photo shoot's over, they are out of there. They don't want to spend any more time with Leonard than they have to.
You know, you don't have to go if you don't want to. I've got some stuff we can share.
Until a woman named Claralyn Balaz offers to be one of Leonard's subjects.
Hey, want to take my picture?
Claralyn is an interesting woman out of the numerous women that Leonard had paid to pose nude for him. And within that, the vast majority had rejected his sexual advances. This woman, this one woman, said yes.
So, I thought I'd unbutton my vest again for you. Nice and soft and padded for real thick marks, but nice and firm too. That's for now.
It still reverted back to his childhood in some strange, twisted way. Photographing and filming women that he was involved in sexually gave him either a comfort, certainly an intoxication, but also a feeling of power and control.
Leonard and Clara Lynn begin dating and eventually tie the knot.
How did I do?
You did good.
Even though Clara Lynn was pretty much willing to do the weird sexual things with him, it wasn't satisfying him anymore, and he pressured her into going into prostitution. I don't think it was anything to do with making money. I think it was just satisfying, you know, a really dark side of his sexual fetishes.
All right, well,
Oh, ho, ho. Where are you going?
I'm just gonna take a shower.
I'm sorry, is that how we ask?
Leonard truly had elevated to a point where all he wanted was to dominate and control women. He was beyond taking pictures of them with a camera.
Can I please take a shower, Master?
There it is. Go ahead.
He wanted to have them literally under his thumb. He didn't want a spouse that was equal. He truly, really just wanted a slave.
Clara Lynn has had enough of Leonard's demands and twisted behavior.
And it's during this very dark time in his life, he comes across a movie that's going to change his life forever.
It's called The Collector, and from the very first scene, Leonard is addicted.
For Leonard, it's his darkest fantasy come to life. There's a sadistic part of him that is just, you know, ignited by watching this film.
I want to be able to use a woman whenever and however I want. And when I'm tired or satiated or bored or not interested, I simply want to put her away, lock her up in a little room, get her out of my sight, out of my life.
And Leonard will soon find a partner in crime.
When the two of them got together, it was just like fire and gasoline. They fed each other, and so the sum was greater than the parts. I think had they not gotten together, a lot more people would be alive.
In the 1965 thriller, The Collector, Terrence Stamp's character, known as Freddy, kidnaps the woman of his dreams and keeps her captive in a hidden room in his basement.
Freddy's a loner, and he longs for the love of a woman, one woman in particular that he's been stalking, and her name is Miranda. Freddy hopes that she'll fall in love with him, and we watch as that does not play out exactly as he would like.
The Collector garners critical acclaim. The film earns 3 Oscar nominations and even wins a Golden Globe Award for Best Actress. Off-screen, recently divorced Leonard Lake hears about the cult classic.
It's during this dark and kind of depressed time in his life that he comes across a story that changes his life forever.
After watching the movie, Leonard is immediately intrigued by the film's dark themes.
So here's lonely Leonard, and he's watching this movie about, you know, this loser guy who managed to score the woman of his dreams against her will.
The movie inspires Leonard to act on his warped sexual impulses.
During this point in Leonard's life, he's in isolation. His wife has left him. He doesn't have friends. The only way he thinks he'll be able to function in the world that he has created for himself is to have complete domination over a woman.
Leonard begins keeping a journal, as Freddy does in the movie.
Hello, Miranda. Little prisoner from my dreams.
Leonard is inspired to find his own Miranda, a lovely, submissive woman he can call his slave. But first, he needs a place to keep her, like the hidden bunker in The Collector.
Leonard knew that if he had a secret room, that could be where he placed these women that he abducted. But he wanted total control because he knew from The Collector that they would try to escape, and they would develop strategies on how to escape. So he wanted something much more severe, something where he could keep them as if they were in a zoo.
So he seeks the help from his ex-wife, Clara Lynn. Although they are divorced, the two remain friends, despite Leonard's sexually abusive ways.
She's still in his life. She's still part of his little weird world. And she's the one that offers him the use of her family's cabin in the woods. Whether she knew what he was planning to do, she'll never say.
Here, Leonard begins constructing his secret room.
Leonard does his best to sort of replicate the bunker that Freddy uses in The Collector. But there's one major difference. When Freddy was building this prison for Miranda, he made sure to furnish it lovingly, and he believes that she's going to eventually fall in love with him and her surroundings and what he can offer her, and that's the bunker that Miranda had built for her. Leonard, on the other hand, has no desire to keep his captives comfortable.
Leonard seeks help to carry out his heinous plan.
Hello?
The logistics of it, I think, overwhelmed him, and he needed a partner. I think he also knew in the back of his mind he needed a partner to really put this plan in motion.
Who is this?
He knows just where to find one.
Charles Ng.
Leonard puts an ad in a magazine, Survivalist magazine. He's looking for somebody to come join him out there in this remote cabin. Enter Charles Ng, who is the perfect partner for Leonard's diabolical plan.
Yes?
Charles, he's AWOL from the military, he's on the run. He needs a place to stay. And it's perfect for Charles. It's like a match made in heaven.
Charles Ng had problems from early age. He had a very abusive father that was physically as well as psychologically abusive to him. He didn't get along with anybody. He got into fights. He steals from people.
Charles, with his criminal history and his horrible behaviors throughout his life, was absolutely nothing until he met Leonard.
In exchange for refuge, Charles offers to help Leonard with his plan, capturing a woman and using her as a sex partner.
Leonard Lake was the brains to set this up, but yet Charles Ng was an animal, and this was his trophy, his prize. This is what he wanted to have. They would provide all the sex that Charles Ng wanted.
Leonard, is excited to show him his bunker, which is basically a small-scale version of the bunker in The Collector.
All Leonard needs now is a slave, or as he would say, a Miranda.
In the film The Collector, Freddy follows Miranda's every move from behind the wheel of his car. Leonard attempts to do the same thing, but rather than use his own car, he decides to steal one. The advantage there being that a stolen car can't be traced back to him.
Leonard looks for an ad in the paper and finds a car for sale by a man named Paul Costner.
He was my older brother. I always thought he could do everything and go everywhere and fix everything and was brave.
Hi, I'm Paul.
Hi, Leonard.
Paul has no idea what kind of trouble he's in.
It was so hard. I paid Paul's rent for 7 months. I paid his utilities. I kept his phone hooked up because I didn't know where he was, if he was coming back. But of course, I didn't know what was to come.
In The Collector, Terence Stamp's frightening portrayal of a lonely entomologist who kidnaps a woman named Miranda keeps audience members on the edge of their seats.
Terence Stamp as Freddy almost makes Norman Bates look friendly. You never know from moment to moment what he's going to do to Miranda.
Off-screen, Leonard Lake and his partner Charles Ng are ready to put their own Operation Miranda into action. The two are in search of a car that is untraceable to them in order to help complete their plan.
My brother Paul Cosner had a car for sale advertised in the San Francisco Chronicle. He got a call from Leonard Lake that had an interest in it.
Paul agrees to show Leonard his car.
Paul had just graduated from Kent State University. He was restoring and selling cars. My brother could sell wings to angels.
But Paul is dealing with the devil.
So, how much you want for it?
Make me an offer.
Paul's just selling a car, and he's not really screening buyers. He knows right away that there's something not right about Leonard.
Paul begins to fear for his life.
What's that? You know, hey, I think I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah, I think you're not going anywhere.
What, guys, what is this? Where are you going, Paul? Come back here!
I think there came a point in this interaction where Paul knows what's gonna happen to him. And just the idea of knowing that the end is near and knowing that these two sick guys are gonna make it as horrible for him as possible.
Paul desperately tries to escape, but to no avail.
He must have just been terrified. You know, nothing in his life prepared him for this. This is a guy that was just trying to sell a car. He didn't bargain for this.
Shortly after the murder, Paul's sister begins to wonder where her brother is.
I was supposed to meet him Saturday morning. I called other car dealers he knew and friends and everything, and nobody had talked to him or heard from him. I called his landlady and said we couldn't find Paul.
Paul's landlord lets Sharon into the apartment, but something appears to be off.
It was vacuumed like the Hilton. It was vacuumed straight down and straight up and straight down, and I knew, oh my Lord, somebody's hiding something. There were things missing from his apartment. So we went in and we looked around and we called the police, and they said we had to wait 24 hours to report him missing. It was awful. It was just awful. That was the beginning. Every day was awful, awful. I was keeping a diary then, and so I wrote him. I said, Polly, what in the holy hell is going on? Where are you? Oh, please, please be well. I miss you so, and I hope you are warm.
Sharon never sees her brother again. With Paul's stolen car, Leonard and Charles set out to capture a female slave, or as they call her, a Miranda.
When these two guys set off to find their victims, I think everybody was fair game. Man, woman, and child. I mean, they did not discriminate. They would kill anything, those two.
The murderous pair doesn't have to look far. Leonard and Charles Ng first target their neighbors, Lonnie Bond, Brenda O'Connor, and their roommate, Robin Scott Stapley.
Brenda lived next door to Leonard. She never liked him. She always was suspicious of who this man was.
Yeah?
Come on over here and look at this.
And one day, she saw Leonard burying something. She told her husband.
What is he doing out this late?
But Leonard had seen her.
Leonard decides to take action.
God, he's coming on.
This is a rural area. There are no witnesses. And for Leonard and Charles, it's an easy picking for their Miranda.
Everybody get up! Hands in the air.
So no one will ever know for sure what happened inside that house.
Lonnie, Brenda, and Robin must have all been filled with fear. You'll have an individual holding a gun. You're only thinking about how you can stay alive for an extra second, a minute, if you're really lucky, an hour.
I just want the girl. The men are free to leave.
You're looking at people who are taken off guard and are given no choice other than to leave or stay.
I said the men can go.
Brenda, it's gonna be okay.
Leonard ordered the two men to leave, out the door. But of course, for his Miranda to stay.
Come on, let's go.
Oh, God.
Brenda's the first woman that winds up in that bunker.
Are you gonna let me go?
Probably not.
Why are you doing this?
Because we hate you.
No, God, no, please.
I can't hardly imagine the horror. It must have been just horrific, the fear that came over her.
No! Off me!
For days, Brenda is kept prisoner under the watchful eye of Leonard.
Every day would have been filled with abuse, rape, and threats. And when they grew tired of her, they discarded her. Buried her in the backyard.
Over the next year, Leonard and Charles continue abducting victims and holding them prisoner in their Miranda room. Among one of the many is 18-year-old Kathleen Allen, a high school student who works part-time at a supermarket.
While you're here, we'll keep you busy. You'll wash for us, you'll clean for us, cook for us, you'll cook for us. That's your choice in a nutshell. It's not much of a choice. Unless you've got death wish. If you don't go along with this, we'll probably take you into bed, tie you down, rape you, shoot you, and bury you.
In the film, The Collector, the main character, Freddy, is almost killed by his own hostage, a woman he's obsessed with, named Miranda.
Miranda has an opportunity where she almost frees herself of the prison that Freddy has created. And just when you think she's going to get away, Freddy regains control and stops her from unraveling his whole plan.
Copycat killer Leonard Lake and his partner Charles Ng abduct 18-year-old Kathleen Allen.
Kathy was a high school girl, beautiful, who worked at a supermarket.
And they have no intentions of letting Kathleen spoil their copycat plan.
While you're here, we'll keep you busy. You'll wash for us, you'll clean for us, cook for us, you'll cook for us.
On these tapes, we do see Kathy forced to wear lingerie, being manipulated and abused.
If there's any circumstance whatsoever that leads me to think that you're even attempting to make noise, it's immaterial as to whether I hear you or anyone else hears you. be whipped very severely. Tell me you understand.
There's no question that Leonard is by far the worst monster when we compare him to Freddy from The Collector.
Please, 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 please don't do anything! Don't do anything! Please! Please! Someone!
After weeks of rape and torture, Leonard and Charles decide to kill Kathleen.
Her last remaining days are captured on these tapes.
Leonard and Charles continue their copycat crime spree. It is unknown how many people they killed during this time.
Leonard has killed, raped, and destroyed countless lives.
Over a year after their first Miranda, the murderous duo head to a local hardware store to buy a tool for their bunker.
Charles does something incredibly stupid.
Hey, get back here! Darn son of a...
What's wrong with you?
Instead of going and buying one, he stole it. And this wasn't a plan that he had talked about with Leonard. He just did it.
What? I want to wrap. Where are you going?
And the store owner called the police.
Who is that?
And when he tried to stop Charles from leaving the store, Charles ran away and left Leonard standing there by his car.
I'm telling you, I will pay you double what this is worth.
Okay, let's go inside.
Let's go inside, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
The copycat killer has a dilemma.
Leonard attempted to purchase the vase from the store owner and tried to make everything nice.
But Leonard isn't able to talk himself out of the jam.
Hi, officer. Listen, there's nothing to worry about. Everything's taken care of. I've paid for the tool.
This is your car?
Yes, sir.
I need you to open the trunk. We got a call about some stolen merchandise.
Oh, no, sir, you don't understand. We've already covered it with the manager.
Sir, open the trunk. Step back from the vehicle, please, sir.
The officer who had just arrived, he checked into the trunk and saw a pistol, a .22 caliber, with a silencer on it. And immediately at that point, he knew that there was a little more involved than just simply a shoplifting.
Can I see your ID, please?
Leonard tells the officers that his name is Robin Stapley, one of his victims from the past.
Check the plates.
So you can only imagine what's going through Leonard's mind at this point. Everything that he feared is now, it's closing in on him.
The license plate check reveals the plates are registered to a different car than the one Leonard is driving.
The officer then looked into the vehicle and found the vehicle identification number and ran that number and found out that the vehicle belonged to Paul Cosner.
Where is he? He went down south. He's on vacation.
Paul Cosner was reported as a missing person. So we knew that somebody had switched plates, and it was on a vehicle that had been reported stolen, and there was a missing person who was the owner of that vehicle, Paul Cosner.
Sir, turn around. You're under arrest.
What the initial case was about was a very simple shoplifting. And now we're seeing that more serious things were happening. So something that was so small is now starting to get very big.
Down at the station, officers search the mystery man's vehicle.
They noted some blood splatter inside the vehicle. They also noticed a couple of look like bullet holes. They found different identification papers to different people, including licenses.
One important piece of evidence that they find in the car is an electric bill in Clara Lynn's name with the address of the cabin.
You're just digging yourself a deeper hole here, bud. I'm coming back.
And I think Leonard knew that the game was over, that this was it. He wasn't going to be able to talk his way out of this. This is a crazy moment for the police, but they have no idea that it's going to get even crazier.
At the end of the movie, The Collector, kidnapper Freddy loses his captive, Miranda, to hypothermia. But even heartbreak and death can't stop Freddy from hitting the streets again in order to find another victim.
Leonard may have based his plan on Freddy and the Collector, but things did not work out as smoothly for him as they did for Freddy.
As the police close in on Leonard's evil secret, he forms an escape plan.
In The Collector, Freddy was always 2 steps ahead of the police and Miranda. But now Leonard, his days are numbered because he's been caught. Leonard clearly knew the jig was up. And he produced a cyanide pill that he had kept sewn in his shirt.
Within seconds, he's convulsing. The cops don't know why.
Somebody call an ambulance!
Leonard is rushed to the hospital where he dies from cyanide poisoning.
We knew at that time this case is getting big. We knew we had something very serious going on here.
While authorities attempt to track down Leonard's partner, Charles Ng, they obtain a search warrant to inspect a suspicious address they have recently learned of.
One important piece of evidence that they find in the car is an electric bill.
The bill is registered to Clara Lynn, Leonard's ex-wife.
And they reach out to Clara Lynn for some answers. What's going on here?
Clara Lynn meets the police at the cabin, claiming to be completely unaware of anything that has recently transpired.
Over here.
As we were looking at the walls, one of the investigators could see where there was like a cut in the wall. And realized at that point, this is a hidden door. Well, we then proceeded to open it up, and it was like a tunnel, and it was pitch black in there. So with flashlights, we walked into the tunnel. It's a dungeon.
It's behind those shelves that the real horror is happening.
Inside Leonard's hidden bunker, authorities find his diary and several items of blood-stained women's clothing.
We could see that there was a bench area with a bucket and toilet paper. And at that point in time, we were thinking, this is where he's held people. We saw the young lady photos on the wall, so we immediately were thinking that he hid and kept some females in here over a period of time, but we had no idea who. But we were very fearful at that point in time there could be many victims.
Outside, officers make another shocking discovery: human remains belonging to at least 25 different people.
They found bodies, they found teeth, they found baby teeth, and they found, more than 40 pounds of human bone fragments. Leonard's obsession with the story of the collector. His M tapes were Miranda tapes.
Miranda was who the victim was in The Collector. So he had his Miranda ladies, and we saw two victims on tape, one of them being Kathleen Allen, and the other one being Brenda O'Connor, who lived right next door to the residence.
The discovery reveals the true motivation for Leonard's crimes.
It was a very difficult thing for all of us that watched the tape. They were scared, they were fearful. It was very, very disgusting.
As police continue their investigation, they begin to wonder if fugitive Charles Ng will ever be caught.
We had reports that he was in the Chicago area. So we had investigators in Chicago looking. The authorities were made aware of it. The FBI was now involved because it was crossing state lines. And we had information that he had friends and relatives in the Toronto area of Canada. So we were concerned that he might make it across the border.
But while Charles is on the run, detectives get the break they've been longing for.
Charles did what Charles does, and that's he steals. And so he went to a department store and stole a couple of items and was stopped by security. Two Calgary police officers were outside. They came inside and handcuffed him and hauled him off to Calgary Police Department.
It doesn't take long for the Calgary Police Department to realize they have just apprehended an international fugitive. Charles is eventually extradited back to the U.S., where his trial makes history.
Charles Ng came up with a motion after motion to fire his attorneys. He challenged the judges. We had over 7 judges hear this case. It was the most expensive trial and investigation in the history of California.
With a mountain of evidence against him, Charles is found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. To this date, Charles remains on death row.
I requested to be there for his execution because their eyes were the last my brother saw, and I would like my eyes to be the last he saw.
For Detective Ron McFall, it's an unfathomable copycat crime.
Lake's fantasies really kind of pattern after The Collector, and I really feel that that is what inspired him. My feeling that Leonard Lake and Charles Ng would have continued killing, raping, maiming people.
In the end, Leonard's obsession with kidnapping a Miranda was his own death wish.
Leonard became the real-life version of Freddy. His copycat crime made him a real-life woman collector.
Looking back on the investigation, something that was so small, just a shoplifting, that evolved over a period of days and in years. And to put this all together, we would not have this in our wildest, craziest ideas that this would evolve into such a big case.
The frightening thing is, if they had never been caught, this went on, and we'll never know how many people these two men killed. And Leonard murdered an untold amount of people. He was a ruthless, sadistic killer.